Lino is a talented auto mechanic who turns common passenger cars into actual Rams. He's going to smash through a jewelry store's wall with his younger brother in order to steal money to aid Quentin. However, the large vehicle is unable to halt and crashes through every wall of the structure. Lino orders Quentin to flee as the sirens blare, but when Quentin tries to escape, his Clio won't start and the seatbelts aren't functional, so he ends up in the hands of the police. The police are looking into Lino while he is in jail. The leader of the anti-assault team, Geo Fast, Charis, crushes the patrol cars with the crew inside. He asks Lino to help them upgrade their fleet of vehicles because Lino is good at getting rid of dangerous intruders and his work will be seen as helping service members do their jobs better and working for the good of the country. Of course, Lino concurs. Once, already driving a tuned vehicle, Charis and his helper Julia take part in the pursuit of the Geo Fast once more, and this time they are successful in catching them. The police discover a hefty amount of cash and an odd manufactured equipment for fast driving inside the automobile. Charis believes that Geo Fast employees are aware of the authorities are working with Lino and are interested in learning more about the origins of this intriguing device as well as the identity of the organizers in general. He brings good news to Lino the following morning. He was granted parole because Lino has been employed by them for 9 months and thinks that he has changed. Then, curious as to what kind of invention it is, he exhibits to the man what he discovered in the captured Goofasty's car. According to Lino, this is an injection shunt that boosts the engine's output by 300% but explodes after 200 meters. Charis claims that the only time he ever saw a gadget like that was the day he was arrested and makes a suggestion that his brother Quentin, who installs these shunts, works for Geo Fast. In order to inspect one of the garages at the dump where the crooks are allegedly based, he brings Lino along with him on a case. When Charis arrives on the scene, he is unable to contact his partner Areski in any way, so he sends Lino to look into the situation by herself while calling for reinforcements. As Charis steps in to save them, Lino unexpectedly runs into his brother Quentin in the garage, where they are both being threatened and ejected by his accomplices. Areski and Marco eventually join them. Charis picks up Quentin and Lino, who are relieved, and they are about to depart when suddenly Areski shoots at the car purposefully so as to not miss Quentin, killing his boss Charis. Lino grabs the gun from the car and flees in shock and fear. When Lino runs to the petrol station to ask to call after removing the electronic bracelet from his leg after Marco orders Charis' car to be burnt, he is instantly turned over to the police. He is the same mechanic, and the station will learn this, but nobody can reach Charis. Since she was a member of their team, Lino then requests to call Julia and agrees to speak just with her. However, Areski shows up for a meeting with Lino in the interrogation room instead of Julia. Turning off the camera, he demands to give false testimony and refuses to give them over to Marco, threatening to use the evidence against him if they don't comply. Areski makes it appear to his coworkers that Charis is absent, and his mechanic stays at the station while the situation is investigated. Lino successfully escapes the room in a fit of rage, takes off his handcuffs, fends off a dozen police officers, and makes off. However, Areski keeps playing against him and accuses Lino of being a traitor and a runaway. Areski confidently asserts that he has everything under control and that they have nothing to worry, but Marco is a little disheartened since he did not expect his friend to be so nasty and because he is terrified of being discovered in their illegal operation. Julia is grieving for her coworker and comrade at the warehouse where team worked and where Charis' burned-out automobile was transported when all of a sudden Lino shows there. He tells her the truth, that Areski killed Charis and murdered him, but Julia doesn't believe him. They get into a battle because the girl is convinced Lino is a criminal, but he proves to be more clever. Lino quickly departs after discovering that the burned-out vehicle is not Charis at all. Areski and Marco, as well as other officers, are already on the scene investigating Charis' murder. Julia informs Areski about Lino's remarks, but she doesn't believe them herself. Areski easily manipulates her and tells her that Lino only intended to confuse her so that she would aid in his escape because they were in a romantic connection, but he swears to keep their relationship a secret. Lino, meantime, moves for the dump truck. He approaches the car covertly with the intention of stealing the weapon from there, but someone spots him. Currently, Commissioner Moss is organizing the office. Areski opposes Charis's decision to dismiss the brigade, but Charasa is in the warehouse. Because Areski's gunshot is still lodged in Charis' car, Lino claims he is certain that the two did not burn it down and make a mistake. They become a little more unstable as a result, and they prepare to kill Lino, but Quentin intervenes and saves him. They argue about who began it all as they are leaving the landfill, and Lena puts her younger brother in his place. Because he had Reno Sharasa hidden on the farm, Quentin now acknowledges that he knows where she is. However, he asks how they can get rid of her without being discovered. Areski and Marco discover their two in the trunk, but Areski kills one of them while giving Marco instructions on how to handle the other. He tells Marco the truth, that they did not destroy the car, out of fear, but the evil cop is heartless and nevertheless executes his partner. Without wasting any time, Julia discovers that Lino was correct, the burned-out vehicle is not Sharasa. She is eager to tell Commissioner Moss about this, but she is dubious and does not take Julia's comments at face value. In addition, she had recently learned of 2 further killings committed by Lino. Areski informed Julia of the relationship between Ju and Lino, and Moss threatens her by telling her to wait in the warehouse. And Areski makes preparations to kill Moss in retaliation, telling Marco about them but remaining mute regarding the fact that Chara's car was never set on fire. Because he is the same witness as every other victim Areski has already slain, he begins to have less and less faith in his friend and is more terrified of him. Lino contacts Julia, persuades her that he didn't murder the 2 people from the dump, and arranges a meeting with her. Julia is aware that she is viewed as Lino's accomplice, yet she still chooses to meet with him, remembering to arm herself first. And with good cause. She is being pursued, but due to Quentin, she is able to slip away and reach Lino unharmed. Situation and gives a brief introduction to himself per Lino's request. He is a foundling who is 19 years old. He met Lino there because he spent his entire life in foster homes. His older brother taught him everything, was the reason he ended himself in jail, and is now the reason he can return. In order to pay off his obligations, Quentin prepared automobiles for Geo fast while working at the garbage. Lino and Charis, a police officer, had come that morning to pick him up from the dump, but another policeman interrupted them and shot Charis. Though he had frequently seen him at the garbage in the past, he was unaware that the man was a police officer. Following this tale, Lino presents Julia with a decision: either she can go with them, provide a hand, and they will return with proof against Areski, or she may arrest them now and Areski will kill them, hang it on her, and frame her. Moss arrives at the landfill at this moment and discovers the Geo Fast organizers' 2 corpses there. They were supposedly killed by Areski, who refers to them as Lino's buddies. Although Julia agrees to assist Lino and Quentin, she sends them away after spotting monitoring at the car and gives up. Areski informs Commissioner Moss of the fact that Julia assisted Lino in escaping in front of witnesses. Marco is going to the farm, and she is bringing Areski with her. Quentin offers his brother a way out of the farm with a concealed bag full of cash, but Lino only requires a car. Without taking any precautions, Quentin enters the property under the impression that they are all alone. Immediately after, he is shot. Quentin crawls away with the last of his life forces while Lino and Marco struggle. Finally, Lino comes face to face with the villain and gains control over him. Despite his desire to murder Marco, he instead leaves him in handcuffs and discovers Quentin already dead next to an old tractor after discovering a rope mistakenly clamped around his brother's hand. When Lino is brought to the automobile, he finds that it is his brother. Of calling Julia when he gets a car, Areski takes up the phone once more. Areski is merely acting strange, and Lino exposes the unpleasant truth that car was not burnt. Driven by Lino into the barn through the roof, where Lino prepares a metal ram with pins before firing. Areski and his team are attempting to catch up with him and set up a roadblock on the highway, and they are once more enlisting the aid of a vehicle that Lino has customized. The race begins on the track. Areski calls and tells Lino to be squeezed so that he can't turn around, but Lino proves to be more skilled and hooks the police car on iron hooks, turning their entire race. The car's crew shouts on the walkie-talkies not to fire from the post as Lino has used them as a shield as they approach the checkpoint, but Areski does not want to miss his opponent and gives the order to fire. Lino manages to get through the roadblock despite the gunfire, and an enraged Areski runs after him. Commissioner Moss is promptly informed of operational developments. She misplaces the handcuffs keys on the table in her confusion, which allows Julia to run away and release herself. Moss explicitly tells Areski not to touch Lino. A group has already been deployed to find him, but Areski wants to finish this case on his own terms. Julia acknowledges Areski's potential for harm and begs Lynn's co-workers not to let him approach. After spotting them on the embankment, she pursues them. Lino is getting away, and Julia rams Areski. Areski emerges from the destroyed vehicle and removes the pin from a hand grenade that he had previously stowed. Areski then throws a grenade at Renault as Lino approaches him while brandishing his fists. Lino climbs in the driver's seat and drives to the warehouse as the explosive explodes and the automobile catches fire. There, Commissioner Moss and his aides successfully extinguish the fire, and thankfully Lino regains consciousness. The inquiry gets going. Esky returns home, gathers his wife and young child by themselves, and then prepares to flee. Julia accompanies Lino and provides him with the proof of his innocence. And as a memorial, a red Renault Charis has been placed. Put your royal like, subscribe, and watch the next video if you enjoyed the tale. A short format was with you.